Okay, now here we have page 33. Now on these, they gave you the vertex form. So you started with that, you didn't have the graph. And so, and this goes back in the notes, you'd have to go back and look a little bit, but we learned how to take vertex form and find the axis of symmetry and the vertex. So the axis of symmetry is always x equals, and then it's this number, but it's always the opposite sign, so -5. And then the vertex is that number, -5, and then the number that's over here, but exactly the way it looks, -4. So by using this, you can sketch the graph. So the vertex is -5, -4, and so you know that's the axis of symmetry, and then you can kind of just sketch that graph. You could wait to graph till the end, though, when we do the other stuff. It'll be a little more accurate of a graph. And so again, the axis of symmetry is going to be x equals this number, but the opposite sign, so +1. And then the vertex would be that number, and then whatever this number is, but the sign that you see, so +1. And again, this number, the opposite sign though, so we got x equals -4. That -4 starts off the vertex, and then this number exactly the way it is going to be the second number. So that's going to give you the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Now, to go to standard form, you are again just going to take this and multiply it out, just like on the first page. So you're going to do that excessive distributive property, combine your like terms, do the -4 last, okay? But they get a little trickier on these two because we've got something in the front. We've got a -1 and we have a +2. So if you have something on the outside there, what you're going to do, so I'm going to take this one and I put it up here. So that negative is like a -1. So you want to do the excessive distributive property first. So you're going to get x squared, -1x, -1x, +1. Combine your like terms, which is a -2x. Then you're going to multiply the -1 to the trinomial using the distributive property. So you're going to multiply all three, which is how I got these three. And then the last thing is to do the adding of the 1. So at the very end, these two would be added together, which would be 0. That +0 gets dropped. And so that's what you end up getting for standard form. Same thing here. The first thing you're going to do is the x + 4 times x + 4, which was this. Then that number that's on the outside, do the distributive property with it. And the last thing to do is to subtract the 8. And you end up with that. And then again, you're going to go into factored form. If there's no greatest common factor, you're going to do some guessing and checking. Now remember, this is going to give you those 2 zeros. You can do the work here if you need to. It would be a -7 and a -3. So when you're sketching that graph out, you know it's going to be at -3 and -7. See, on the next one for factoring, there's a greatest common factor there. They pulled out a -x. And then they were left with x - 2. So we've got -x = 0, solve for the 0, and x - 2 = 0. So we can see our two x's are 0 and -2, so now's a good time to do the graph. We already know the vertex and the axis of symmetry, and now we know those 2 points on the x-axis. And this one has a greatest common factor of 2 that you need to pull out first, and then you could still guess and check. So we have 2 = 0, which it doesn't, so it's eliminated. X - 6 = 0, that would become a -6 when you solve it. And x - 2 = 0, which would become a -2. So I know that my zeros are going to be at -2 and -6. And so they all interrelate to each other, but it's just a review, kind of pulling everything together. So take your time on these notes and just kind of think about it all, because the next thing's going to be a little quiz.